Hello. Today we're going to talk about personal selling. I'm going to go through the chapter step by step as always, and I have the notes off to my left here, and I will be referencing them and telling you when to go to the next slide. Okay, so let's get started. Right now we're at the title slide, and we're going to move on to a definition of personal selling. So the first slide gives us a definition of personal selling, and the main thing to remember is that personal selling uh, happens when a representative of a company interacts directly with a customer or prospective customer and talks about a product. It's a give and take type relationship. There's talking back and forth, and one of the ways to think about it would be like, for example, when you go and buy a car. Uh, there's a salesperson who actually interacts with you pretty diligently when you buy the car, and there's quite a bit of back and forth. You ask questions, they answer questions, they try to close the deal. They do go through a number of different processes, and we're going to talk about that in just a few moments. Okay, so next slide. Okay, Table 14.1 provides the characteristics of a wide variety of trade sale promotion activities, allowances and discounts, co-op advertising, trade shows. It's very well presented in the table, and I don't think that I can really add a lot to it. But if you have questions about any of those issues, please contact me by email or Skype or Facebook, and I can answer that for you. Okay, so next slide. Okay, there's been a number of developments that have impacted selling and personal selling. Some of the major things that have happened is obviously there's a lot more information technology available today than ever before, and there's a lot more electronic commerce happening. So things have changed a lot. It's not door to door sales people anymore. A lot of it is electronic, and the amount of information available is just amazing. And so information is a strategic resource for people and companies, and the more they learn about their customers, the more effectively they can sell to them. So business is defined by customer relationships. Businesses try to develop a relationship with customers so that they return again and again. And if you think about when you buy a car, at least in the US, you purchase the car, they take you over and introduce you to the sales, not the sales, the service manager, so that you know where to get your car serviced. You'll get a phone call in a few days from someone asking if you were happy with the sales process, if you're happy with the car, and they're trying to develop that relationship with you so that you'll return when that car you're tired of it or no longer like it or just want a new car, that you'll return to that dealership to buy another car. And so they work with you to develop a relationship so that you do that. Okay, sales success depends on creating and adding value. That's true. You have to show how you're adding value to whatever you're selling. So, for example, going back to the car example, once again, they add value by excellent customer service, a good customer service department, maybe providing a shuttle to, if you bring it in for service, have a shuttle to take you to a local mall or a restaurant so that you can eat while your car is being worked on. All of those things add value. Okay, next slide. Okay, there's a wide variety of careers in personal selling, and a lot of people that major in marketing end up their first job as sales. There's some benefits. There's a lot of freedom in a sales type job. You get to manage your own time. You get to figure out how you want to do things. Everybody's different as far as how they like to do the sales job. The income is quite good. You feel good about yourself. You feel kind of in control. It gives you almost an entrepreneurial type spirit, and it's quite a bit of opportunity for advancement, and also a lot of opportunities for women. So it's actually a pretty good career. And the next slide gives us an example of how salespeople spend their time. If you notice, 26% is in face-to-face sales, but 74% is in sales prep, travel, waiting, and administrative tasks. It's very important that salespeople spend an adequate amount of time to get to know their customer and the needs and wants of the customer prior to ever making the sales pitch to those customers. So anyway, so this gives you a pretty good idea of how they spend their time. Next slide. Okay, compensation. Once again, if you end up going into sales, to give you an idea of what to expect, salespeople, low performers make $57,000 or so in 2012. Top performers, $101,000. And then as they go up in ranks, you can see that once you get to be a strategic account manager, the salaries can be quite good, 100,000 to 160,000 in 2012 for this particular study. So definitely a field to consider. But you have to like sales. You have to be a people person, be able to interact with people effectively, and that can be a challenge. And some people don't really like that. Okay, next slide. Okay, this is just a slide to give you some general idea of the types of positions available and the titles of those positions, and I think you can read those pretty well on your own. Okay, next slide. Okay, there are two types of salespeople. There are inside salespeople and outside salespeople. Inside salespeople work from an office within their employer's facility, calling customers, getting orders, answering questions, working with the customers, but they never physically take they never physically go out to the customer's place of business. Outside salespeople do travel to the sales places of their customers and sell directly to them at their place of business. Okay. The marketing concept. This slide is just as an example or a review of what we talked about before. The marketing concept says that if a company provides customers with what they need, that those customers will support the company by buying their product, and that in that way, the salesperson's company also does well. So sales and profits come from customer focus and customer values, and customer satisfaction is of primary importance. Once again, if they're satisfied, they're going to continue shopping with you, and they'll come back and buy more product. Okay, next slide. Once again, since we're nearing the end of the semester, I just wanted to give one quick slide for the marketing mix. Price, product, promotion, and place. Personal selling is obviously part of the promotion type things. Promotion of element of the 4Ps, and just to give you kind of how everything fits. Okay, next slide. Okay, today's customers use the internet to get instant, comprehensive information. Even if you think about it, when you go out to the store, you'll see a sale on an item, and you'll take your smartphone out and go to Amazon, type in the name of the product or the stock number for the product, and find out how the price compares to what you are able to get from, say, Amazon. So people are very, very savvy as far as price and service and what's available and assortments and things like that. So it's very important for us to know the market and know the marketplace very well. They have, obviously, consumers have choices from throughout the world, and they can get real-time price comparisons, as I just mentioned. Okay, next slide. Okay, customer strategy, just to give you a definition, a carefully conceived plan that results in understanding the customer's perceptions and maximizing customer satisfactions and responsiveness. So what it means is that you have a strategy for selling to the customer. You're not just going out there and winging it and seeing what happens. You actually are really studying the customer, studying their needs, figuring out what they need, and then adjusting your sales technique to meet those needs and show how your product meets the needs of the customer. So that's what the customer strategy is. Okay, next slide. Okay, figure 14.5 in the book gives you the steps in the creative selling process. We're going to go through each of these in turn. But first off, you prospect and qualify customers to see if they, you find customers basically, and then see if they are able to buy your product or would buy your product. You do a pre-approach, you do the approach, the sales presentation, you handle objections the customer may have, you do the close, and then you do follow-up. And we're going to go through each of these in detail in the next couple slides. Okay, next slide. Okay, so the first part is to prospect and qualify customers. Prospecting is developing a list of customers that are potentially interested in buying your product. You can do this in a lot of different ways. You can do cold calling, which is just literally what it sounds like. You call them up on the phone, see if they're interested in your product. Referrals, maybe a customer tells you that, hey, I really like your product, and Jim at this other firm that I know, I think he'd be really interested in your product as well, and they give you a referral. Qualifying, a formal definition is the process of determining if a certain lead has characteristics, literally the ability, authority, and inclination to purchase, and in a size and quantity that meets your company's needs in order to qualify as a prospect. So, for example, if you're talking to a business that would only buy 50 units a year, but it's just insufficient for the number of units that you're economically able to provide, you may turn that customer over to a wholesaler and then deal more directly with larger customers. But it's not always the case, but it's something to think about. Okay, next slide. Second step is the pre-approach. This is where you compile information about the customer, learn what their needs are, and then plan how you're going to do your sales interview. Information is gathered from a lot of different sources, newspapers, magazines, competitors, news releases, annual reports. Anywhere you can get information to prepare and be effective is what you do. And if you think about it, this is kind of like when you're going for a job interview. The pre-approach is you read about the industry, you read about the company, you show that you're knowledgeable about the company and what they're doing, and then in the case of an interview, you're trying to sell yourself. In the case of most personal selling, you're trying to sell a product or a service to a company. And if you really know their company, you can show how you're adding value more effectively. Okay? Step 3 is the approach. You actually contact the prospect. You try to present the best possible image when you meet them for the very first time. You never do get a chance to make a second first impression, and so it's really important to know what you're doing, come across as professional, and make it so that they have confidence in you and the products you're trying to sell. Okay. Step 4 is the actual sales presentation. You lay out the benefits, the added value of your service or product, and you show why it's better than the competition, how exactly it will benefit your customer, what it can do, what it can't do, maybe as well. But you want to be honest and forthright, but really show what your product can do in the best possible light. So you invite customer involvement, you invite questions, you invite interaction with the customer so that it's not just a lecture, that they actually feel more involved, that they can ask questions, that you can provide them with a lot of different information and information that's of value to them and their particular situation. Listening skills, therefore, are really important. You can't talk all the time. Selling does not necessarily mean that you talk constantly. It also means that you take the time to listen to the customer, listen to what the customer is trying to say, and listen to what their needs are. Just because you did the pre-approach doesn't mean that you may have done it perfectly, and you do have to make sure that you listen to the customer and listen to their needs. Okay? Next slide. Step 5. Most of the time when anybody, a consumer or a business, is being sold to, there's some objections. Okay? And you should welcome these. You should expect them, and you should be able to try to work to overcome them or explain or deflect them. They must be successfully dealt with, but they need to be shown. You need to show the customer that you're concerned and that you're willing to work through the different problems with them and work through their objections so that they don't have objections anymore, that you've met everything to their satisfaction. Okay, next slide. Step 6 is actually closing the sale. And a lot of times what you'll do is you'll try to do a trial close in order to get the customer's commitment. So this is a listing of different ones. So you do things to try to move the customer from the thinking about it stage to the commitment stage. So you would say questions like, so would you be able to start our training on September 6th? This gets the customer thinking, oh, okay, yeah, can I do it on the 6th? Or maybe they're thinking about doing it a little later, but it moves them into that commitment stage. How does that sound so far? That moves them along as well. What do you see as the next step? Is now a good time to send you the paperwork? Obviously, that's a trial close where you're actually trying to get them to commit to buy the product. Well, when should we send our technician? Same thing. Let's put aside the price. Would this be the right product for you? All of these things move the customer from the informational gathering stage to the commitment to buy stage. And then after you actually make the sale, it's important to follow up. As I mentioned with the car dealership, they have someone call in the couple days after you buy the car to see if you're happy, see if you're pleased with the sales process. And it's also important in all sales to do the same thing. So arrange for delivery, arrange for payment. Don't forget about the customer as soon as they agree to buy. You want to build that relationship and have them come back and buy additional products with you or from you. And then also talk about purchase terms, any problems they might have. All of that stuff takes place during the follow-up stage. Okay, next slide. The buying process actually varies a lot by culture. Okay, in Japan, they're made by it's a collective type society, so it's made by the group. In China, a senior negotiator leads. In Germany, it's always the upper management, the top level leads. In Latin America, there's some relationship building beforehand. So you have to be savvy to the cultures in which you're trying to do the selling process, and make sure that you don't offend them, and also make sure that you follow the norms so that they take your message seriously. Okay, next slide. Okay, just briefly, I wanted to talk a little bit about Salesforce management process. There's a couple different stages: the setting objectives, the strategy, and the recruit and training and evaluation. And we're going to talk about each of these in turn now as well. Okay, so next slide. Salesforce objectives, they state what the Salesforce is expected to accomplish and by when. There's a lot of different ways you can state this. You might say that you want a certain level of sales, or you want to sell a certain percentage of each product. You set those performance objectives, and then behavioral objectives, what you expect, how you expect the salespeople to act. And all of these things are just different things you think about when you're trying to motivate salespeople to act in a manner that's consistent with what you're trying to accomplish. Okay, next slide. You establish the structure and size of the sales force. There's a wide variety of setting up sales territories. There's geographic sales force. Okay, you have Pennsylvania as your sales territory. Someone else has Ohio. Someone else has New York. That might be one structure. You may have smaller sales territories, larger sales territories, and people will move through them during their careers. Product class sales territories, industry specialization. So if you're selling steel, maybe your specialty will be appliance manufacturers. Someone else's specialty may be major car makers, and someone else might be specialty steel. So there might be a wide variety of specializations, even though you're selling basically the same commodity, but your manufacturing and the value added has to vary by what they're trying to use the product for. Okay, next slide. You need to recruit the right people. You need to have candidates with the skills that you need. Sales training obviously is exactly what you would expect. Training the sales force to be more effective, training them to be more knowledgeable about the industry, more knowledgeable about your product. And then professional development of the sales force is ongoing. They don't just come in, have one introductory type program, and then be left on their own. It's important that you develop them over time and keep them current. Okay? Direct marketing is any direct communication to a consumer or business recipient designed to generate a response in the form of an order. So anyway, just any direct marketing that you send out. Maybe it's a flyer in the mail. Maybe it's a wide variety of different things, a contact. But you contact the person directly. Okay, next slide. That actually is it. I did not cover a lot of direct marketing, but I think that it's a relatively straightforward. This is a short lecture. It's hard to really teach sales, personal selling. There's definitely an art to it, and I think as you read through the book, if you have questions for me, I would be happy to talk to any of you. And I guess that's about it. So thank you very much, and talk to you soon. Thank you. Bye-bye.